I'm a sucker for stories. Little wonder why one of the most dear aspects of filmmaking to me is documentaries. Documentaries allow me to tell stories, to tell the stories of people, things, places, and organizations. Over the years, I've filmed a lot of documentaries for both local organizations, international organizations, government organizations, and private individuals. And all of this knowledge put together has informed what produces the quality of documentaries that I currently make and gives me the kind of ease that I enjoy when I film documentaries. When I started, it wasn't really so. I had to learn a lot of things along the way. I am still learning. Now, in this video, I'm going to share with you my 3 rules for professional documentary filmmaking. When a client reaches out to you or you set out to film a documentary, the temptation most of the times is for you to just go out there and start filming. Now, whilst that was my approach when I started making documentaries, I soon realized that it is not such a good approach. The reason is because if you spend more time preparing for a journey, you either shorten the journey, or if you don't shorten it, you make the journey a lot lighter because you build stamina for the journey. And so through time, the first lesson I learned was that I have to invest more time in preparing for the documentary than filming the documentary. And so I came up with 3 rules that have guided my documentary filmmaking over the years. Now, these rules are my rules, but I believe that if you apply them as well, it will make it a lot easier for you to film documentaries and get the very best out of them. I might make a separate video later on giving a step-by-step guide to making a documentary from scratch, but for this video, I'm going to just share with you these 3 rules. And my hope is for you to have these 3 rules at the back of your mind whenever you're filming a documentary. Now, rule number 1, always know the backstory. Every documentary is a story. We all know that. But what a lot of persons do not understand is there is always a story behind every story. For example, if you're filming a documentary about the progress of an organization, let's say a company, now what you're telling is the story of that organization, perhaps from the start to the current stage of its growth. There is a backstory to that story you're about to tell. It is important as a documentary filmmaker to know what that backstory is. Some of the times that backstory could be what inspired the founders of the company to start the company. What happened? What led to the inspiration that brought about the company? Now, even if you're not adding that to the documentary, knowing that backstory at the back of your mind will help you build a flow for the story of the documentary. It will help you streamline the story to best appeal to that backstory subconsciously in the mind of the viewer. So you started an electric car company. You started it 10 years ago. The company has now grown to a multi-billion-dollar company. You want me to do a documentary for you detailing the progress of the company from start to today. The story you want me to tell is to tell the progression from when you started, possibly from when you started to the present day. Telling that story, I'll tell the challenges you faced, the mountains you surmounted to get to this point. Now, that is very intriguing. But another part of the story that the audience or the viewers may not get to know is what I, as a documentary filmmaker, will have to find out. So what I will do is have a sit down with either the founder or someone. This is not the interview for the documentary just yet. I just want to get to know, why did you start an electric car company? Perhaps years before, 10 years ago when you started the company, something happened that triggered you or inspired you to start the company. Maybe a tragedy. It may not even be a tragedy. It might be a happy story. But whatever that story is, I want to know it. Knowing that story will better help me to create a flow for the documentary I am currently making for you. So always know the backstory of the story. Rule number 2, prep your interviewees. When I started making documentaries, I'll just go in on my interviewees, set the camera on them, and ask them the questions on the spot. A documentary is not a live TV show. As a documentary filmmaker, you're not a journalist. You're not trying to put your client or put the interviewee on the spot. You're actually trying to tell a story. And in telling a story, clarity is important as well as detail and precision. What prepping your interviewee does for you is that it allows your interviewees to stay on the point and to give you exactly what you need for the documentary. Now, in prepping your interviewees, I'm not saying for you to give them handouts or give answers to your own questions or your preferred answers for them to answer. But what it basically means is that your interviewees should know the questions beforehand, know the direction of the questions. And also, if there are certain areas you like for them to touch, certain specific areas you like for them to talk about, you can hint them when you're answering this question, could you please just narrow it down to so and so and so point, or could you just branch into this and tell us a little bit about this when I ask you so and so question? Now, preempting them with these kind of pointers will not only ensure you have the right answers, but will also make them a lot more relaxed. They know that they're in safe hands. They know that they can just be themselves and just answer the questions as best as they can. Not that you're trying to get the worst of them or the worst side of them, like, you know, you get with journalists and whatnot. So prep your interviewees. You might not have the time, especially if you're filming multiple interviewees. I've had documentaries where I filmed at least 27 to 30 interviewees within a short period of time. Such number of persons, you may not be able to talk with them one-on-one. But if you have a printout of your questions for each of this group of persons, you can have it sent to them beforehand and let them know, okay, these are the questions we're going to be asking you. You can prepare yourself along the line of these questions. And if new questions crop up during the interview, we'll ask them, but this is where we are facing for your interview. That way, your interviewees will come prepared and they'll give you the very best. Rule number 3, and perhaps the most important rule: allow the story tell itself. When I started, I was so rigid. I had my plan, my structure for everything, and I just wanted to follow it strictly because I did not want to fail. I did not want to make mistakes. So I followed rigid filming plans. But for documentaries, because it's a story, certain things will unveil in the course of the documentary that will tweak or twitch your plan. Don't fold. Don't stay rigid. Be flexible. Allow the story flow in its own direction. I see stories a lot of the times like water. They have a direction of flow. If you just allow the current, the story will lead you in its own direction. And if you allow it lead you, most of the times, there are certain times that if the story leads you, it will carry you go where you don't know, But if you allow the story lead you, a lot of the times, you will not have friction when you're shooting. It will be seamless. It will be easy. And by allowing the story lead you, what I'm basically saying is be flexible in telling the story. Draw out a plan, but be flexible. Allow things to change when you're filming. Allow the story to go in certain directions that are not in your plan, if that direction is better for the story than what you already planned. Having these 3 rules at the back of your mind will greatly improve the quality of your documentaries and will make it a lot easier for you to film. Now, because I am Santa Claus, I have a bonus tip for you, and this is it. The most important lesson I've learned about filming documentaries is always film too much. And there's actually nothing like filming too much, but film until there is nothing left for you to film if you're filming a documentary, because a lot of the times documentaries have a lot to do with detail. It is not as much about precision as it is about detail. Precision being very, very good, but detail is very important. Film as much as you want, especially your B-rolls. Film as much as you want. Have enough options when you're filming documentaries. It is better to have too much than not to have enough when you're filming documentaries. You'll be frustrated in editing. In my early days filming documentaries, I encountered that a lot. Having to use one clip multiple times just because I don't have enough clips to cover up. It's not good. So film too much. Film until there is nothing left for you to film. Have it all. At the end of the day, you can just sieve through them and delete whatever you want to delete after you're done with documentary. But have enough in your arsenal so that when you begin to edit, your bullets will not finish. That is basically it for this video. If you've learned anything, don't forget to drop a comment, like, share, and of course, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you get notified when I drop another video. Until the next video, don't forget to continue to learn, create, until you become.